All right, so I think we're ready. Are we live, Dan? All right, here we go. So it is Monday, March 2nd, 2020. It is 5 p.m. This is the Village of Oregon Village Board meeting, so ask for a call to order, please.
Amanda Peterson,
Here.
Donovan,
Here.
Jacobson,
Here.
Bollig,
Here.
Glish,
Here.
Horton,
Here.
Carpenter.
Here. All right, we are all here. So first item is, under 3 is public appearance. We have a library fundraising kickoff events and items, and we have folks in the audience. So Jennifer, do you want to walk us through these things?
If I could, that'd be great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
sure.
First, I just want to say thank you for this quick chance to update you on our capital campaign. Pretty much anyone who's not here for Lieutenant Pegenkoff is here for the library. So thanks to everyone for coming. We have a lot of steering committee members and campaign members here, so I just want to say thank you to them for their contributions of time and talent to support our efforts. And just thank you to all the community members, including many of you in this room, for already supporting our campaign efforts. We really appreciate all that support. To date, our campaign has raised $1,195,372.08, thanks to a lemonade stand. Both the town of Dunn and the town of Oregon have made a financial commitment or plan to do so this year. And there's some, it's possible additional neighboring communities may also join in that. The campaign's been featured in the Oregon Observer, thanks to them for covering it. It's been on News 3 Now. The Isthmus cover article last week, which is in your packet, featured our campaign. And OCA Media has done some nice videos to promote some of the special events. So thanks to all those folks who helped to get the word out. I also left a campaign brochure at each of your spots, and if you don't need one, you can just leave it there at the end of the night and we'll make sure we reuse it. They look fancy, but they're made possible by 2 local businesses who donated all the work for this. So that's Orange Whip Designs did the graphic design, and Sprint Print donated the printing. So I want to acknowledge them. This is a great way to share information about the campaign. It's kind of short and to the point. And I'm always happy to talk to people who have questions about it or the project in general. We also have a more detailed folder that we're using when we meet with folks that has a lot more detailed information with our naming opportunities and such. And if any of you want to see that, I'm happy to provide that as well. If anybody in the audience wants a brochure, we've got extra right here as well. I'm going to skip down to the website. Jeff, do you mind just going to the URL there in the agenda for just a moment? It's linked on the agenda. Otherwise, I can.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yep.
This one?
Yep.
Okay.
And it's safe. So.
It's safe.
So I just want to highlight our campaign website too. The campaign total is always on the right side, that thermometer there showing our progress that updates regularly. Right now the total includes it rounds up, so we're just short of 1.2 million. Includes the village contribution and then the capital campaign contributions committed to date, not necessarily collected, but committed to date. And then showing the overall goal. So if you want to check and see how we're doing, you can go to this website at any time and get pretty close to where we are at the moment. It updates every 24 hours. We also want to recognize the leadership. So Jeff, if you go up to the top, there's a leadership tab. And that just recognizes all of our people that are involved in our campaign helping in some way. Also recognizes our campaign partner, which is Oregon Community Resource Network, and they've helped us with some things like some grant applications and accepting stock donations, which have been really helpful for us. Jeff, if you go to the top, there's a donate tab. We have a lot of information here, which most of you are all familiar with, so I won't go page by page, but the donate page is a really great resource. It's got a pledge form, which people can do a gift now, or they can pledge over 3 years. Or if they're donating to like another cause like JC Park, they could do their gift starting next year as another option. We also have a credit card option, so somebody could do a monthly credit card gift or a one-time credit card gift, which just is another way people can get involved. We have a lot of naming opportunities, so someone wanting to make a really legacy, an important, meaningful contribution to them, there's special opportunities for that. And then Jeff, if you go to the top, there's a donor recognition tab. One of the things people want to know is how their gift might be recognized. And our intent is to have a really nice donor recognition wall in our lobby so that when people come in, all gifts of $1,000 or more, either pledged one time or over that 3-year period will be recognized when people come into the library. They'll be able to see that. All gifts are important, so we will also have something in print that will recognize all gifts to the campaign, whether it be $5 or $1 million. So it's very important to us to make sure we thank and recognize our donors. We now own our own really big check. So if anybody wants to make a donation and get a really big check photo, it's pretty exciting. It's dry erase board, so we can reuse it. Jeannie, is it okay if we go to number 2 now?
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't want to steal Jeannie's thunder, but I would just want to say thank you to the Firefly. Their baristas donated their cash tips. OCB matched all the contributions, and just the entire community came out on February 14th. There was a special campaign event to kick off the public phase of our campaign, and people just came out amazingly to support it. So I'm going to let Jeannie mention anything she might want to say.
Oh, gosh, I think that's it. Yeah, I'm sitting in this seat, so it's hard for me to talk about that stuff. But
Yeah.
I just want to thank the community. So my husband, Uriah, and I own Firefly Coffee House in addition to being on the village board. And I just want to thank all the people that stood in line for a very long time that day. Thank you for supporting the library. But yeah, my staff and I were a little overwhelmed, but we tried to control the bedlam as much as we could. Yes, so thank you for all the support.
And that event was great, too, for building awareness. We heard a lot of people standing in line talking to each other about the library project. It also helped us get some of that coverage in the media that really helped spread the word. And I've been hearing lots of people say they saw that on television or in the isthmus, so that's been good for awareness as well. The item number 3, the Oregon Community Resource Network is supporting a number of projects right now, and the library is one of them. They're holding a special event on March 14th to thank the community for the projects that they've already helped with, which is the food pantry and the youth center. But they'll also be sharing information about the library project as part of that for people wanting to learn more about what's going on in the community now. It's a free event, and there'll be music, entertainment. It's at HQ. And there's a nice banquet room there, so would invite any of you interested to attend that as well. And then just the last thing is the capital campaign monthly update that we provide. Are there any questions?
Any questions, board members? Anyone from the audience want to just like cheer or wave or, yeah? Okay. Yes, I recognize a lot of people in the audience that have been very integral to the campaign, so thank you for being here. Thank you for providing your support. We appreciate all of you. So I just want to say thank you to Jennifer. You've just done an amazing job leading just everything at the library, and you are making it very easy for the village board to cheer you on because you're doing such a good job. We're just pretty much watching you soar along with everybody else. So thank you for your leadership.
I appreciate that. I do want to recognize. I do want to recognize, in addition to our whole team, Jenny and Randy Glish and Jenny Nelson here are our campaign co-chairs, and they are just going above and beyond to share their time to help make this successful as well. So I just want to recognize them also.
Yes, good job, team. All right, so thank you for that update. That was all really good news, and we're excited about what's coming forward. All right, ready to move on? Mm-hmm. Okay, so item 4, thank you library folks for being here. Item 4, we have acting police chief items. We have, maybe I will just read all of these things and then we'll work through them. Does that sound okay? All right. So we have a review of the February 13th, 2020 Police Commission minutes. We have some possible board action approving the letter from the board to the police chief regarding her appointment. We're going to swear her in. It's very exciting. You get to make comments, chief. We're going to review the chief's 60 days plan, and then we have a possible action to prepare a recommendation for the April 20th board meeting. So I think first on here is to review the February 13th, 2020 Police Commission minutes. Mike, was there anything that you wanted us to do with this other than just?
Yeah, A and F are actually related.
Okay.
So when you read the minutes from the meeting, besides appointing Jenny as the acting chief, the commission's actually asking, the commission requests that the village board advise the police commission as to the village board's plan to find a permanent police chief. And so that's why F is on there.
Okay.
When we get down there, I can talk some more about it at
Okay.
that point.
Sounds good. All right, so then item B is possible board action. I took the liberty, Mike helped me write it, to write a letter on behalf of the village board to acting police chief regarding her appointment. So if you all agree with that letter, hopefully you do, we should probably have a motion to approve it. Anyone want to make that motion?
A second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you for doing that. All right, so now we get to swear you in. So I actually requested this, so Chief, keep calling you Lieutenant, Chief Pagenkoff took her duties on February
14th.
13th,
Well,
14th?
13th at
Yeah.
4:30, but yeah.
But I'm just excited that she's our acting chief, so I requested to swear you in. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
All right, so I'm going to bring these and we're going to go around front. And do you want to grab the mobile microphone? Just got three. I can't. Do we think? So I'm gonna give this to you. So I always let you hold the microphone because literally no one cares what I have to say. Okay, you ready? All right. Okay, yeah, we'll be fine. Okay, so I, Jennifer H. Hagenkoff,
I, Jennifer H. Pagenkoff,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and comply with the Constitution of the United States of America,
that I will support and comply with the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Wisconsin,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Wisconsin,
the charter laws and ordinances of the Village of Oregon,
the charter laws and ordinances of the Village of Oregon,
the rules and regulations of the Village of Oregon Police Department,
the rules and regulations of the Village of Oregon Police Department,
and the Law Enforcement Code of Ethics.
and the Law Enforcement Code of Ethics,
And I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office as the acting police chief of the Oregon Police Department.
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office as the acting police chief of the Village of Oregon Police Department.
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you.
Alright, so I'm gonna keep talking now. There you go. That was fun. Okay. So one of the reasons, it was just a personal reason I wanted to do that was because you may right now not know it, but I'm the first woman village president in the history of Oregon, and Jenny is the first woman chief of police in the history of Oregon. So that was important to me as women. Go team women, right? Men, you're all great too. You're doing great. But that was just an important moment to me, so congratulations. All right, so now I think you get to make comments.
Okay.
All right.
Our agency's been through some tough times, but one thing that's helped me get through those tough times is serving a community that is as great as this one. This community, as soon as it was known that I would be the interim, members of the community, members on this board, on the commission, from my department, from my family, my friends have all stepped forward and said things of support and encouragement, and I really appreciate that. That's what makes me love serving this community. I want to thank the village board for that support. That has been huge through all of this, and I think most of you know me, I will work very hard to deserve that support. I want to thank those listening. I don't know how many watched the board meeting, but I want to thank them,
Hundreds, I'm
the
sure.
community for their support as well, and the police commission. One of the reasons I have worked so hard, I've been in school since Jake, my son, was born, and he's 5. So I've been in school, going to college since then. working towards the opportunity to be a chief someday. And one of the main reasons, other than serving this fine community, is leading an agency that has the great employees it does. Many of them sitting in the back, and I really appreciate their support, the time they're taking away from their families to be here, to show their support. I definitely would not want to lead any other team than that one. I also, yeah, as I spoke, I'm in school right now, and it's for my master's degree. And you'll soon hear what my 60-day plan is, and and Mike has seen it. It's a big one. It's either go big or go home with me, and there is no way that I would be able to do that without the people sitting in those first two front rows there. And that's my husband Troy, my son Jake, my niece Bryn, my son Tyler, Rudy, my very good friend, my brother John, my sister-in-law Kari, and my father Bob. That is truly what makes a police officer solid in this day and age, is a good support system. And I just want to thank them as well for their support and love. That's all I have. I look forward to working for you guys.
Excellent. Thank you very much. All right, so we are now going to review your 60-day plan. So those, for the hundreds, possibly thousands of people watching, this is in the packet. And there's a lot of stuff on here. Chief Kagenkoff, do you want to give us any highlights or ask?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And if I could just bounce back, I'm sorry,
Sure.
I'm struggling with a cold here. I want to thank Mike and Lisa as well. They've been awesome through this whole thing. I'm kind of learning as I go a little bit, and they have been very great. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Going back to the 60-day plan, the first two entries are just to remind people reading that, I'm trying to do the lieutenant full-time, full duties, and then the chief day-to-day until things are decided on a permanent level. The positive and professional image of the department and its employees with the general public. I think one of the great ways to accomplish this is through some of the meetings, getting the public and these various resources connecting to the police department. So an example would be Oregon Cares, the Oregon Area Wellness Coalition. They have a lot to offer with assistance in getting grants and finding different resources. We have a lot of problems with pedestrian safety, bicycle safety. We're not a solid agency unless we can partner with those sort of groups. So I plan on building those relationships and trying to help them as much as they help us. The 2019 annual report, Rudy and I are finalizing that. We soon will be hosting an award ceremony. And we just started today the recruitment process for 2 police officers. As far as, I'll just be, as I was in my lieutenant capacity, just taking in questions from all different aspects, open records questions to day-to-day operation questions. I lean a lot on my sergeants to answer most of them, but if they can't find the answer, I try to help. The next bulletin, I will just say it comes from the report that Sue Reisling put together. I will be working on that as well. I have about 30 to 40% of it done, and I reached out to Randy to see if we could talk some more, so I make sure I'm meeting the expectations you guys have of that report, because I'm kind of coming in the 7th inning here on that one. And then continuing to strengthen the relationship with the school district, and there's some various ways I'll be doing that. Things are going very well. One thing I'd like to highlight is the school did reach out to see if we offered DITEP training, drug impairment training for educational professionals. We have a DRE. He's an excellent DRE, Detective Will Jansen. So we're actually going to have him go to become an instructor in this as well. It's a good way to collaborate on a project with the school, but also it just keeps his skills up as well. I'll also be working with Attorney Dragney and Mike on the juvenile policies and the SRO job description, as well as some other things. And just ensuring that our productivity and performance remain at a high level. And our sergeants I see them meeting often with the officers to make sure they have what they need, and then they're also making sure they're productive and making sure they are trained in whatever they need to be trained in. And they're also attending meetings as well. I was asked to throw in there some long-term goals so that I guess you get an idea of what I think is important to this community. and serving with this community for the 15 years I have, I think mental health is a good thing to tackle for us, more of a long-term approach. Many times we go to these domestics or disturbances or batteries. Mental health tends to be one of the root causes, and mental health care is hard to find for people. We want to try to help bridge that gap. So we're going to look into that, try to find out what we can. Officer Wellness Program, that's been a project of Rudy and I's for about 4 years-ish. And that would be very limited cost that we kind of have a plan for to tackle. I just met with Alice today, so we definitely want to work with the Diversity and Inclusion Advisory Board. We also want to work on some more public safety announcement videos. They seem to be quite a hit. That was with the Oregon Area Wellness Coalition and Oregon Cares. They make a phone call and things happen, so we love partnering with them. And then working with the chamber, we used to offer crime trend tips, sort of things, anything we can do to help them educate their employees on. It could be something as simple as retail theft to burglary, tips to protect them from burglaries. We want to make that connection again and get in there and help them wherever they need. So that's some of the long-term goals. Now, they would keep going as we move forward. With the 60-day goals, I do think this is a lot to take on. I wouldn't make them goals if they weren't achievable. If, though, something big does come in, which I certainly hope it does not, but in the world of policing it does, that this may change, and then I would work with Mike to make sure you're informed. But as things sit right now, this would be the goals to achieve.
Excellent, thank you. Questions, comments for Chief Pagenkoff? All right, well, know that as I said in my letter, know that please use us as a resource. Any way that we can help, reach out. I know I'm personally happy to do that, and I'm sure all the board members are, so thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so then we're back to item F. This is a possible board action, directing the village administrator to prepare a recommendation for the April 20th board meeting regarding the permanent police chief position.
So moved.
Do you want to have any say in what that recommendation is? What do you need here, Mike?
Just that motion, and
All you need is that motion.
I'm going to give the board a recommendation at that meeting.
Okay.
Yep.
Excellent.
Yep.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and we have a second. Is there any further discussion?
Corey's got first.
He's seconding it. He's
Oh,
saying
yes,
Corey
gotcha.
seconded.
Yeah, gotcha. Any further discussion? All right, well, I want to say stuff, but I'm not going to, I guess. I would just like to say, I'm just going to do it. So I know that Mike's going to make a recommendation, but Chief Pagenkoff, I just want to let you know that I'm so excited that, I didn't realize you were here for 15 years. Did you start I'm assuming you started as an officer?
Right.
Because you don't look that old.
Thank you.
And I personally think it would be really amazing to have our next chief be someone who came here, rose through the ranks, and then took over that leadership position. But I guess I'll wait to see what Mike's recommendation is. That's my personal.
It'll be clear when I make it.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yes. That's all I will have to say. And I'm super looking forward to your 60-day plan.
Thank you.
Any other broad declarations? No, we're good. Okay. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you for that.
All right. I also want to thank all the officers that we have in the audience. I know that we have some officers in uniform, we have officers out of uniform. Thank you for all of your work and dedication to the Village of Oregon. We appreciate you. I'd have you wave, but you're probably in here. If you want to wave, feel free, but thank you for, yes. Thank you for your work and service to the community. We appreciate you. Thank you for your support of your new acting chief. Yes, thank you, thank you. This is also your cue to, if you want to go and not disrupt the entire meeting.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
See you guys.
Yeah, thank you. That's all right. Okay, so now we will proceed with our agenda item, and let's see, so we're on to number 5. This is discussion on possible board action regarding recent compliance checks by the police department. We have a handout on our desk with results of that. There is information in the packet to tell us who passed and who didn't. We have some notes from Acting Chief Pagenkoff. Does someone want to introduce this? Or
So,
what do you
so
think?
Candy, I asked Candy to do this email this
Okay.
afternoon, 'cause I realized that one of the things when the board looks at this is, have there been a violation in the last rolling 12 months? And so at the bottom of the handout that is in your folder, you'll see that it was Aces, Main Tap, and Senior Peppers. And I think they were here last time for this, yeah.
Yes.
So here we go again, that's why Matt's here to help us kind of explain this. What do we do with this? We do have a resolution, I believe, we do have a resolution that would allow you to proceed with revoking someone's license. You have that ability, you have to go through the process, but last time we just invited them to the board meeting, and you asked them to explain what they were gonna do to prevent this from happening again. And so, does the board want to do that again? Do you want to refer to the March 30th committee meeting, or just, I guess, what's the board's pleasure on this?
Yeah, Randy?
I'd like to see all three of them come before us. La Roca's as well.
Even though, okay, so La Roca's did not fail within 12 months, twice in 12 months.
But
No,
I'd
that's
still
fine.
like to see
Okay,
talk.
sure.
Other thoughts? Yes, David?
Are there any intermediate actions that we can take other than calling them in or suspending their license or revoking their license?
Yeah, the statutory process allows for either a suspension or a revocation. There's some unusual language in the statute that I'm not quite sure what to do with that suggests, it says that the minimum suspension would be 60 days, and that's been something that we've talked about here that has essentially been a deterrent to wanting to go down that road. I would say that it seems to me that if we were in a position where we wanted to consider a suspension of a shorter time period, it may be possible to achieve that kind of a result through an agreement with someone. If the board felt that, say, a 1-day suspension or a 2-day suspension or something was necessary, I think we could probably get there.
Then I would agree with Randy. I think we need to call them in, especially for those that are repeat. Something has to be done to just let them know that we're serious about this, and that this is something that we want to follow. I don't know what that option is yet. I haven't given it enough thought, but I think it's worth having them in.
Other thoughts or comments? Yeah, Jerry?
I fully agree with Randy and David on this. I'm not so upset about La Roca's because they just had a recent one-time violation.
Yeah, we can educate them though.
And I agree. I'm just, my main frustration is with the other two, because I'm tired of seeing them. And I don't know what we do beyond calling them in. I don't know. I hate to restrict someone's livelihood over something like this, but I don't know how we impress upon them that this is serious, very serious. If you have any thoughts in that area, I'd like to hear them.
Amanda, then Cory?
So, I don't want to take punitive action. I mean, I think they know that we're serious, but I think it's possible that they're struggling with how do we stay on top of this, because they do have server turnover and things like that. And I'm wondering if there are tips, maybe our new acting chief could give them suggestions, like just a quick meeting at the beginning of every shift. Don't forget to card. It's very important. It's all they'd have to do, just that constant reminder every day. Don't forget to card. I don't think that happens in a lot of businesses. Everyone's rushing around and shifts change and it's done, but just making them take the time to do a simple reminder like that may be enough. I don't know what they're doing now. Think calling them in would allow them to explain what they do now, and maybe we could, I want us to be a resource for them. I want them to feel comfortable reaching out, like, they should be contacting the police saying, oh my gosh, this is twice in 12 months, how can we fix this? Help us. But I don't see that. I want to impress upon them that we're trying to help here. Does that make sense? That's kind of why I want them to come in. I want to work with them. I want them to be successful. I don't want to close their business down or take away a liquor license. Nobody wants that. Anyway.
Corey?
I guess I'm frustrated. Last time we brought them in, David, you weren't here, but, we had a very good discussion, I would say, and I want to work with them as well. But I also want to see results. I don't want to come back here every time we do compliance checks and have the same ones failing over and over again. I mean, to me, that's a sign of what we're doing isn't working, and we need to try something different. What I would like to do is maybe not have, a revocation immediately. Maybe we come up with some kind of an agreement as far as they're going to implement A, B, and C, and we're gonna, check them more frequently. And if they pass those, great. If they don't, we need to try something different. I just think it needs to get to a point where it's serious and there are consequences rather than just come in and talk to us and everything's okay. I think we need some real changes to make change happen so we don't have this continually happening.
For ACE's main tap, was the server cited? Chief, do you know?
Yes.
Do we know, is it the same server? Is there always a different server at these places?
Different servers.
Different servers,
Yeah.
okay.
If I could add, in light of how I saw that these compliance checks went, I reached out to the Wisconsin Alcohol Policy Project. Her name is Julia Sherman. She's kind of the guru of this issue. We've been going back and forth, but if you guys are open to it, what I can do is come up with some options she may offer. I explained to her what we're dealing with is, even especially I think back to what Senior Peppers talked about. It felt like they were trying to make a legitimate effort, and I know our officers, they act as these liaisons to help. I've never heard any kickback when our officers try to work with them. Maybe seeing what Julia has to offer for other options. I emailed her and I said, she oversees all of these different areas. I said, do you know of any where they've struggled with these compliance checks, but they put one thing or three things in place that fixed it? And she was putting together a long email, so we're kind of going back and forth, trying to hone in on exactly what I'm looking for. She was also going to look into data while she was at it. There's a part of when we arrest somebody for an OWI, a form that says where the person was at before they were stopped and cited for OWI. And in there is where typically our officer writes down what establishment they came from. So it'd be interesting to find out where are those places too. Might as well get all that information at once and see if there's any connection. I don't think so, but I don't know. So.
Yeah, Randy?
So I just want to follow up with what Corey said when they came before us. I thought we had a very thoughtful, and I remember we gave them several suggestions on what they could do. And when I saw this, I emailed Jeannie. I said, we need to have a very firm conversation. And I think maybe this time, we have to say, it happens again, we're not going to put up with that.
David?
I was just going to add that I like the suggestion by Acting Chief Beckenkoff about tapping other resources. And I hope that they would include in some of those suggestions any social media options that we might have available to us, since that seems to be what a lot of people tap into. Maybe we can use that as just, if nothing else, peer pressure I mean, among the restaurants in the communities around us, or the servers, or whoever it might be.
Thanks, Chief, for looking into that information. You know, anything that we can have that might make this, you know, a better result for everyone, I think is what we're after. My question for you is what capacity do we have for increasing compliance checks and then also completing compliance checks at these businesses at completely different times? Because from what I saw in the report, it appeared like, you know, adjoining businesses
Yeah.
heard rumors that it was going on next door, and then they kind of weren't, I guess, completely checked to the same level that everyone else was checked at, just because they had some warning that it was coming.
Yeah, and that's a risk we take. When we first started the compliance checks, I was the one that got it rolling. And so I did a few ride-alongs with the sheriff's office with their compliance checks, and even they stretched out throughout a county, and they would just take a portion of the county and completely different areas, and they'd still get detected, and then they start making phone calls. One of the biggest challenges for us conducting these compliance checks is it's hard to find buyers. A lot of those 18 to 20-year-olds just don't want to be in that position. It's awkward, and they're being told no, hopefully. And so you almost have to find someone who's interested in law enforcement because they get it, they buy into it, and then arranging schedules to make that happen. We used to do them through a grant, and we had to follow these specific rules where we actually had to announce before we were going to do them, which was odd, but really the goal was just to educate, not to enforce. As far as why we do 2, that's kind of like the standard, but if we're having issues with a particular place, or if Mike or the village request, we can, you know, we'll certainly check into it, but it's usually because there's been an issue there.
Yeah, Matt?
One of the things that I've been thinking would be an interesting thing to pursue would be this. I think we've talked about the fact that the legislature changed the statute to say that we can't cite the licensee, the license holder for this violation. We actually just cite the bartender, the person who actually served. And in some cases, it seems like the response is directed maybe not at the right person. Maybe a person who hasn't been given the training and the tools they need to actually comply with the requirements, and then they end up with a citation that's pretty expensive. I think it's not.
No,
it's like $600 and some dollars.
Yeah, I can't remember what the new bond schedule is. but
Well,
it's
let's just say
5.
for a bartender, that's a lot of money.
Yes.
So I'd never had this idea before, but I just had it during the meeting tonight. I think it'd be interesting to ask if people who've been, you know, failed twice in a 12-month period would be willing to enter into an agreement that says, going forward, they consent that any violations, they will be subject to the forfeiture, not the survey. They would agree that if they fail another compliance check, they're the ones who are going to have to forfeit the $600 and some dollars or whatever it is. I've never drafted such an agreement, but it seems to me we could
And you
probably.
can figure out a way to do that legally?
We could,
Yeah.
well, I think so.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, because it would be, basically, it would be as an alternative to going through some of a suspension process, where, you know, we need to find some way, and we would like to try this way. And so that if there's another compliance check failure, then the licensee has to pay. Just a thought. The other thought was, I would love to see the League of Wisconsin Municipalities and others push the legislature to change that statute again. Now, I'm not sure, they might not be all that excited about it, because that means they have to go to war with the Tavern League and irritate a bunch of legislators, which they probably, I mean, that means they have to decide what part, is that the most important part of their legislative agenda this year? But my sense is that this is the #1 issue for the Tavern League, and it isn't the #1 issue for the League of Wisconsin Municipalities, but it certainly is a thorn in our side every time this comes up, that we can't cite the actual establishment. So the agreement is a way around that, maybe.
Well, that's a new idea, because Jerry and I have been on this board for a long time, and we've dealt with this issue multiple times. And when Steve Staten was village president, this was, one of his top priorities was curbing alcoholism in the village. And I feel like we bring in the business owners and we hear the same things over and over again. And I go to these places and I know who's trying and I know who's not. Because I think all of us probably go to these places and you watch and you see who's really trying and who's not. And I'll just say from a personal point of view, on day 8 of owning the Firefly, we got cited for this because I had not yet had a training session with my staff and I had a barista serve alcohol to an undercover cop. Now, imagine how embarrassing that was for me. So I think it depends on the owner of how motivated they are. I am extremely motivated to not ever have my staff serve an underage person again, because that puts me in the paper as an elected official. And so I think if you can get folks motivated enough, you start checking IDs on everybody. My baristas now check IDs for almost everyone. Like, unless they have gray hair and maybe it's their grandpa, they don't. But otherwise, like, you better have your ID.
I got checked for a hot chocolate the other day.
We've all seen you on sugar.
Yes.
I'm just saying, all it takes is a little motivation and a little embarrassment, because that was
Yeah.
super embarrassing to me. Like, oh my God, day 8 of owning this business. I'm on the village board. This has been a huge,
We were getting that email from you.
oh my God, it was just like, I just wanted to die.
I remember that.
So I don't know how we, how do we make the owners of Senior Peppers and Aces Main Tap just want to die of embarrassment? Because that doesn't seem to be happening. I don't know. Yeah, Amanda?
Well, I just wanted to quick comment on Matt's idea. My question is, what would stop the owner of the liquor license from turning around and docking the employee's pay whose fault it was that they got cited and ending up making the employee pay for it after all? Can we police that? I'm just wondering how that would work.
I don't know how to answer that. It may be that would be an unlawful thing for them to do. It would violate, wage and hour requirements and so on. I mean, because we would have a contract with the licensees, an agreement between the village and the licensee that says, if this happens, then you're subject to paying this to the village. Would they be able to then, impose on an employee this kind of obligation? I don't know for sure. I suspect that would be problematic for them, both in terms of as an employer to try and do that to one of your employees, but there may be some other legal reasons that would be a problem, but I'm not in a position to give you a great answer to that tonight.
I just want it to be on our radar, something to think about how that would look.
I mean, they could terminate their employee. I mean, let's say the employee had been fully trained and was told, this is the way we're going to do it, and still made a mistake. You could presumably let that person go at that point. But
Corey?
I guess first of all, Jeannie, thanks for sharing your story. And I think it points out a very important aspect is, nobody's perfect. We're going to have, things slip through the cracks. When it happens over and over and over and over and over again, that's not, a simple mistake. That's behavior that just continues to happen. So I think, what we were doing before with your business worked fantastic because we had an owner that cared. And I think the other owners, when we have issues that continually repeat, they obviously haven't cared up to this point. And I like Matt's idea of giving them a reason to care. I think a lot of times our focus has been on, doing these compliance checks, but then there's no repercussions for the owner. So the owner doesn't necessarily even have to train their employees, and at least this would put some skin in the game for the owners to say, hey, I better let my employees know this, because if they mess up, I'm the one that has to pay for it. So I like Matt's idea.
Do we want to ask Matt to work on some sort of agreement before we bring in these?
I'd like to see more information
Yeah.
besides this. Just what other options do we have? Not that I'm opposed to it. I think it's a great idea, but I'd like to see other options as well.
When were you thinking this would come to us again, Mike?
Let's see.
I guess I'm not interested in bringing these owners in and having the same regurgitation that we had before. I'd rather have something else to offer. I don't want to say threaten, but let's say offer. Just, you know
And
what I mean?
just so you have a sense of what I think it might look like to go down the path I was describing, I mean, you'd have to set that up to say, if you don't work with us on this kind of an agreement, then our fallback position is we are gonna pursue the other remedies that we have, which might be a suspension of your license. And because I sense that would be the way that it would make sense to set it up. Because if we didn't set it up that way and we just said, would you be willing to do this? And we don't have and if you don't, here's what we're gonna do, then you're not in a very good position to really get
Right.
them to the table.
I would say April 13th, just
Okay.
rather than bringing it to the 16th. I'd probably wait till April.
Can we have a discussion with Matt before that?
Sure.
Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah.
I'm not big on like wasting time, wasting people's time. Yes, thoughts,
Go-
David?
go ahead.
Okay,
Yep, go
or
ahead.
Cory?
I guess I would like to weave in with Matt's suggestion, the chief's suggestion of getting some feedback of other ideas that might kind of tie in with this as part of the solution. And then, you know, I think I don't know with right now that we need to go with them and say, this is the avenue that we're going. Or here's what it is. I think we can tell them, here's where we think this is going to go, and if it happens again, have that plan in place and ready to go. I don't want to kind of blindside people with kind of them not having any awareness of this. So I think if we do meet with them, we can let them know, here's what our plan is, here's how it's going to be in the future. Start caring about it now, because if it continues to happen, here's the repercussions that are going to happen.
Amanda, Jerry?
Yeah, you had something before me.
Oh, I did, yes, and again, I like Matt's suggestion, and I'd like to hear more about that. Also, when we bring these owners in, I'd like to know if they say, not interested in signing anything like that. I'd like to know what the minimum amount of time is we can suspend their license.
Well, the statute says 60 days, but again, in my view, I don't see any reason why we couldn't say, we'd like an agreement with you that it'll be 1 day or 2 days, or whatever you decide is
Okay.
appropriate. And then if they're unwilling to do that, then we say, well, I guess it's gonna be 60.
Okay, well, again, when we
Yeah.
call them in, I'd like to give them options.
Yeah.
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 Here, you can sign this, or we can do this. There you go.
I also want to hear like a history. I don't think this is the first time that they've failed in a rolling 12-month period. If we could look at like a 5-year history of violations so that we can say, look, we've seen this isn't like, we're not unhappy because we see you twice in a 12-month period. We're unhappy because we've seen you 10 times in the last 5 years or whatever it is, right? That shows a clear pattern of recurring violations.
I'd agree with that, because I remember in years past, we had a couple of sort of problem children, and I don't know what they did with their staff, but they have not been on this list in a long time.
I agree.
So, I mean, obviously it's possible, right, Jerry?
I know what one of them did, 2 of them actually, is they scan their IDs into the system. They have a system that they scan IDs in. So, and that took care of both theirs.
And we talked to them about that.
Yeah. Actually, we did, you're right, Randy.
Yeah. So, gee, can I just say, I wouldn't want to, LaRocca, I think, would just be a conversation. I don't think they're at the same, because they didn't fail, but I think it's still good to have a conversation with them, to educate them about, we'd like you to do better. I wouldn't want to, force the agreement on them personally,
No.
because it's only happened once. But I still think it's a good time to have a talk about not happening again.
Yeah, Matt?
I think it would be helpful for us to have some opportunity at staff level to think about some of these things too. I'm going through an alcohol proceeding in another community, and we're contending with all the due process issues that come into play. if we were dealing with this issue, I think the proceedings would be in front of you all, and you would be acting in a quasi judicial capacity, and we'd have to think about, so unfortunately, this is just, it's just hard, frankly, in terms of, once we go down a path, even if the goal is an agreement, I have to give some thought to how to put that kind of a process together in a way that would be workable. So if the idea is, you know, Chief Pagankoff is gonna gather some information from Julia Sherman about options, and we're gonna come back and talk about options. We can hear what Chief has found, and if you want, I can offer further information about what I think might be possible. And then you can make a judgment about how you want to proceed.
And it should be shoot for the, actually why we can't do it on the March 16th is Matt's not here.
Oh, okay.
So we could just shoot for April 13th to invite, if this is okay with the board, invite all three of them in for the discussion. We'll look at Julia Sherman's information. By that time, Matt will have thought through his ideas a little bit more. We can just have a general discussion about that as well.
Well, maybe it's okay for those folks to hear our discussion.
I don't think it's a problem at all.
Yeah,
I think
okay.
it-
I was thinking we could have that before,
Oh.
but now thinking through, it's probably good that they hear all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Does that sound okay
Just
with
do it all in
everybody?
one night on the
That's
13th.
fine.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I'll make sure, Amanda, that we have a history, because Candy has that. I just didn't print out the whole history of it.
Sure.
Yeah.
And Randy, I think it would be, I would be willing to invite the Rokas, but I don't think we would ask them to speak. I mean, I think it would be,
Okay.
is that, Yeah.
Just so, what am I, not that they're on notice, or but that we saw that they got.
we could send them, I mean, this will be discussed if you would like some education on this
Yeah.
matter and say,
Yeah.
you know, you failed once. If you fail the second time within 12 months,
Yes.
all the things that we will be talking about at this meeting will pertain to you.
Yeah. I mean, what we've done in the past, we've just reached out. When someone fails, we just reach out to them. We don't invite them to the meeting, but it's up to the board if you want them to be invited.
I don't know, is this their first time, like, ever? That-
I don't have it in front of me, Randy. so-
I-
Barokas? No. It's been a while, but.
Oh, they have, okay. Well, then maybe Jeannie, it's good for them to hear it.
Yeah, up to you. Yeah, Jenna, then Corey.
I was just gonna say, I like the idea of getting multi-year history, because this is my third year on the board, and some of these names are quite familiar, so I think that was a really good perspective, and I also like the idea of not only Matt's proposal, but Chief's proposal of getting additional data, so we can get that full picture as we decide next steps, so. that's all.
Corey?
I don't know that it would be a bad idea to let all licensed establishments know that we're considering, you know, making changes to our process. Not that they have to come before us and speak, but at least they know, you know, these changes are coming. And maybe some people might come that have some ideas of what they did that helps, you know, solve the problem for them. So,
Okay. Have sent out a general informational
Sure,
letter.
sure.
We always have the public shaming option at our disposal too, social media, and there's, you know, it's public record, but I don't know if that, we want to go there unless we really have to. Sad.
All right, so is that enough direction for,
I got it.
for you
Yep.
folks?
I got it, yep.
Okay. All right, thank you for that discussion. So April 13th, we'll be talking about that again. All right. And Chief Pagankoff, you need to leave?
Yes,
So, yes.
go to
we-
Sheboygan.
Yes.
Oh,
Oh, for
Yes.
Sheboygan,
geez.
all right.
Yes.
Thank
you, everybody.
Thank you. All right, item 6, we have a village attorney, village administrator report. Item A is discussion and possible action regarding amended and restated development agreement for the Highlands of Netherwood. So we have a recommended motion to approve the agreement. Would someone like to do that, to get this on the table?
Congrats.
All right, we have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any highlights from this, Mike or Matt?
Just briefly, when this development was approved back in 2018, I think, there was a master development agreement approved at that time. When we got to working on the agreement for what we're calling Phase 2, we decided that there were a number of adjustments that we at a staff level wanted to make to the master development agreement. We spent some time working at a staff level on that. We had at least one meeting with the developer, have had further dialogue with the developer on those changes. And so we prepared the revised, or this amended and restated master development agreement to present to you tonight. I don't have the red line draft in front of me. I would characterize the changes we made as kind of highly technical changes. Quite a few things that Jeff was interested in. For example, the timing when streets are being constructed, you know, you've got the sub base, and then you've got the first coat of asphalt, and then you've got the second coat of asphalt. And the old agreement said that second coat of asphalt shouldn't go in until the construction season after the first coat of asphalt. And Jeff felt, actually, that's not working well. Let's make sure that both go down in one season. That's an example of the kind of changes that we made to this agreement. And so that's why this is in front of you tonight. After this agreement is addressed, there will be the Phase 2 agreement, which is a very simple agreement that just authorizes the developer to move forward with Phase 2.
And Jeannie, I should have said at the beginning, the board passed a motion that these had to be signed by Forward Development before they went on Monday's agenda, and I got them last week to both sign.
Okay, so the developer has agreed to
Yep.
this. Okay. Yeah, Corey?
Didn't they have fees that they had to pay as well?
Yeah. Invoice.
April 6th.
Yeah, when we get to the Phase 2
Two.
agreement, I'll
Right.
talk a little bit more about the financial issue, because that's in that Phase 2 agreement.
Okay.
All right, any further discussion on this first item? All right, then all in favor of approving the amended and restated development agreement with Highlands of Netherwood, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, now on to the second item. This is discussion and possible action regarding the agreement for land division improvements, Highlands of Netherwood Phase 2. And so we have a recommended motion to approve this agreement. Would someone like to do that? To get started, Jenna? Yes, do you have a second? All right, Amanda, second. All right, so Matt?
Yeah, briefly, again, this agreement allows the developer to move forward with Phase 2. It does include paragraph 6, which addresses payment of the amounts past due from the developer. I think Mike at a last meeting reported on the discussions he was having with the developer about a structure that would allow us to move forward with Phase 2 because they were asking for that. But to build into this agreement a process that requires, payment of past due amounts by, this agreement says by April 6th. And if the amounts that need to be paid are not paid by April 6th, then this agreement says that the village may suspend any and all work being done by the village or its consultants. No early commencement or starting date could be approved for Phase 2. And if a start date has already been approved for Phase 2, then the village could require that all of the work at the site be suspended until payment is made.
They need the agreement approved and signed by the village and by them, so they can go to the bank and get the loan within 30 days. So that's what's magical about April 6th.
Gotcha. All right, yes, Amanda?
I just had a question. So I've been out there and seen Phase 1, and there's like maybe, I think, 3-4 houses out there. Is it common for a developer to move into Phase 2 before Phase 1 isn't very populated? Have they sold lots? Do we know anything?
They
Has this
have
worked?
lots, they have quite a few lots sold already in Phase 2.
In Phase 2 they have.
Mhm.
So Phase 1 is sold and,
I-
or,
It typically, phases are never sold, well, I'd say, highly unlikely phases are ever sold out completely. I mean, like, I will give you an example. They are finally building on 2 lots along Bergamot Boulevard from the original subdivision that was platted in 2003 or something. So it's not unusual that some lots will just linger. So no, I think this is pretty typical, that what they're doing. This one and the next subdivision we're gonna talk about is pretty common.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, Corey?
Are we charging interest on the fees that are outstanding?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
1% per month,
Yep. Yep.
12% per annum.
All right, so No further discussion. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And then we have item C. This is discussion of possible action regarding agreement for land division improvements. This is the Autumn Ridge Phase 1C, also known as the Hofer Development, and release of restrictive covenants, plat of Autumn Ridge Phase 1C. So we have a recommended motion to approve that agreement. Would someone like to make that motion to get this on the table?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Jacobson. All right, Matt, you want to talk about this?
Sure. So this is a development agreement between the village and Hoffer Development that would allow Hoffer Development to move forward with Phase 1C of their development. This is instead of having a master agreement and then an agreement for each phase, in this case, we just are using a single agreement that kind of does everything on a phase-by-phase basis. But the purpose, again, is to allow the developer to move forward with Phase 1C to address all of the things the developer needs to do in that phase. And I think we have the release of the restrictions as a separate item, right?
No,
All in one?
It's all in one.
Okay. And so the lots in this phase are currently restricted, they can't be sold. So the recommendation is to both approve the development agreement and approve the release of the restrictions on those lots.
Any questions? Yes, David?
Just a matter of significance, I noticed on the attachments A and B, B has Phase 1 and Phase 2, and A has Phase 1A, B, and C.
Yeah, it is confusing, and let me explain why. If you look at attachment B first, the whole development that we're dealing with here is actually Phase 1. The Phase 2 area has not even yet been annexed to the village.
Okay.
But their intent is, when what attachment B describes as Phase 1 is completed, they would annex the Phase 2 area to the village, and then we'd need to go through an approval process associated with Phase 2.
Okay.
So the development that has been approved and the platting that has been approved is just what's described on attachment A.
Can I assume then that they have purchased the land already for Phase 2?
Mr. Hoffer, I can confirm that.
Yeah, I own the land in all three phases.
Okay.
Phase 1, which is platted, Phase 2, I own that land, and then across the street,
Okay.
Phase 3, I own that land as well.
All right, thank you.
Any further questions or discussion? All right. All those in the favor of the motion to approve the agreement for land division improvements for Highlands of Netherwood Phase 1C and release of restrictive covenants plat of Autumn Ridge Phase 1C, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank you very much. Item 7, we have approval of minutes of the special meeting of February 10th, 2020. Those are in our packet. So I would look for, oh wait, we don't need to approve these?
Yes.
Yes, we need to approve these.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Tonight we have vouchers. This is item 8, approval of vouchers. We have total for approval, $2,237,336.13 in front of us. So to get this on the table, I would ask for a motion to approve.
I'll move that.
Jerry, is there a second?
Second.
I don't know, pick one.
I
There's
don't-
like 4 of them. Go with Randy, okay.
Go ahead, Randy.
All right, questions?
I
Oh,
Go ahead,
have
Jerry.
a question, sorry. It looks like there was, Lakeside International did about $12,000 repair, is that correct?
That is correct. That was to our oldest dump truck. And that went in for some repairs, and there were a slew of things that were failing on it, including the fuel tank and everything.
Okay.
Our next CIP for 2021 will have replacement of that truck with a new dump truck. That's been part of our plan, so just kind of keep that in mind. It was an expensive repair, but an important part of our plowing fleet. And
No, I don't doubt that.
Yeah.
How long will this extend the life of truck one?
How long will it, that's like asking how long will the used car continue to run? Until the transmission drops or something
Well,
like
if you
that.
don't drive it, it should last quite a while, right?
Right, yeah. We hope it, well, I mean, honestly, the repairs that we had, I mean, we hope to be able to get at least another year out of it.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Yeah, you do need it.
Yep. And we may be able to recoup some costs when we sell it in the end. Someone who buys it will, or if in the auction, it'll
Hmm.
be noted that it has some new parts on it.
Very good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Could I speak to that same item?
Oh, sure.
So for that truck, I see that it's split up amongst a lot of different accounts, and it's evenly split between water, sewer, park, storm, cemetery, tree and brush, and snow and ice removal. Is that kind of an equitable split based on the usage of that truck for all of those different accounts?
Yeah, I let Gary go through and split that apart, and I've actually commended him on him for splitting it amongst the different areas, because this is one of those multi-use trucks that we do use for a lot of different things. And he feels, and I support him in this, that, you know, we kind of split it. Now, you know how hard it is to track, unless we literally track the hour meter with the cost and spreadsheeted it all and everything like that. So I think that's an equitable way to split it out
Okay.
amongst the different budget items.
Thank you.
All right, others, yes, Randy.
8926, Van Briesen and Roper, legal professional services.
Yep.
Just curious what that was, Mike.
That's Kyle, the labor attorney.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Very good.
Personnel stuff.
And then one more, 13113, Horseman Networks. Mike, is this the one that you were gonna try to get a better deal on?
That's our phone consultant.
Yeah, but I thought, wasn't that the one you were gonna try to, you asked us not to do it? I thought you were gonna, was that something else? You were gonna try to get a better deal on something. For some reason, I thought it was this. No?
I don't remember that.
Is that the internet situation?
I mean,
Was it TDS? or
Well,
some-
we're talking, Jason's our consultant on their phone system and internet service, so we're working towards.
Maybe it was something, it was related to him, but not
Related to
this.
that, yes,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions? All right, then could I have a roll call for approval, please?
Sure. Carpenter?
Yes.
Horton?
Yes.
Peterson? Yes. Bollig?
Yes.
Jacobson?
Yes.
Donovan?
Yes.
Glish?
Yes.
Thank you. So now we're on to community input, and the community has left us. But it was nice that they were here.
Yeah. that could be good.
So that was nice. Mhm. So I'm gonna skip that. Because it's back to us. So we are on to proclamations and announcements. Any board comments tonight? Yes, Mr. Bollig?
Yes, we've been talking about listing our initiatives for upcoming years. And I heard one over the weekend on TV that I thought would make a great initiatives, because I, for one, find driving through the countryside or even in town here, seeing all these paper bags or plastic bags dangling from trees and blowing through the fields and blowing across yards. And the news report that I saw was New York now is banned plastic bags. There are retailers from using, anyone from using plastic bags in that kind of a situation. And when I looked further, I found a list of all the other municipalities that have banned them: California, Hawaii, New York, Oregon, Virgin Isle, and Puerto Rico. And I'd like to put that on our list of initiatives going forward. I would like to find out more about that process and how to do it, and how receptive the public would be. And again, you know, when I say how receptive the public would be, obviously it affects the business bottom line. So I would be looking for ways to soften the blow for businesses so that they'd be more receptive and more cooperative in doing such a thing. I think it would be a great step in beautifying our town, our countryside. That's my comment.
Excellent. All right, thank you. Other board comments? All right, staff comments. We have a list of upcoming meetings. Anything you want to highlight there, Mike?
Just again, we may have a meeting on March 30th, a special board meeting for Highlands of Netherwood Park, so if we stay on schedule, that should happen.
It should happen? Yes?
It should happen
Okay.
if we are on schedule, yes.
Okay. So then, everybody remember that we don't have a meeting the first Monday
Oh,
in
yeah, that's true.
April
Thank you.
because there's an election.
Right.
So if you show up, you can vote, but we won't have a meeting. Ooh, and the organizational board meeting will be on April 21st.
Yep.
So note that that's a Tuesday.
It's Tuesday,
That
yeah.
always catches people by surprise. So that meeting is, I shouldn't say typically pretty short, because sometimes we do other things at it too.
But typically it's 10 minutes.
Sometimes Mike, like, you know, sticks
He makes it
things in.
special. Mike
Uh-huh. Yeah,
makes
yeah.
it
I make it
special.
special, that's
Yeah.
true.
So you never know, it might come up in the next 6 weeks that we have to have at the organizational board meeting, but make sure that
I
Tuesday.
have done that, I agree. That's
Yeah,
true.
that
That's
Tuesday
true.
night
Yeah.
I think we need snacks for that.
is on.
Just putting the idea out.
Yeah.
I would put in a plug for donuts. Same.
All right, so going on to item A, or item 11A, under communication miscellaneous business. This is a discussion of President Carpenter's proposed changes to park board membership. And I'm calling this modernizing the Village of Oregon Park Board. So I don't know if you all have had a chance to look, I wrote a fairly short memo, it's in our packet. The public can also view it online. One of my initiatives when I was running for village board was to start treating how we govern the village less as a small town and more as a community of 10,000 people, which is what we are. And so one of the things that I've talked with Mike about is kind of going through some of the makeups of some of our committees and even some of the committees that we have, and trying to modernize them so that they are very much similar to other communities and to communities of our size. And so one of them, probably, the first thing was I was interested in developing the advisory board on diversity and inclusion. So they had their first meeting, Jenna was there, thank you for going. So that seems to have started, and we'll hear more about that. And then the second thing that's, I think, probably the most pressing, and I'm happy to kind of go through committees and commissions one by one, is how our park board is made up. And so I don't know if you all know this, but for like ever, the code is like written on a typewriter. It consists of several members, one of whom is selected from each of the following: the Chamber of Commerce, the JCs, the Oregon School District, the Oregon Village Board. There's 3 at-large members. There's an alternate member who only gets to vote if there's a regular member absent and they need a quorum. And then there's a student member who has voting privileges. And there is no residency requirement for any of these members. And so I was hoping to, this is what my proposal is, to start updating the village code to change the makeup of this board to have it consist of 1 village board member, which gets appointed through the board, and then change it to just 5 Village of Oregon citizen members, and then 1 student member, all with equal voting rights, for a total of a 7-member board, and all of those members would have to live within the village limits. I guess I'm a big proponent that if you are voting to spend village tax dollars, you should be living here and paying those taxes. To give you an idea, that's how the Planning Commission works. If you want to be on the Planning Commission, you have to live in the Village of Oregon. I remember when I was first appointed to the Planning Commission, we had a very prominent community member, Jeff Grenier, and he built a house in Brooklyn and moved to Brooklyn. And we had to kick him off of the planning, and he'd been on the Planning Commission for like ever, like decades. So I just think it's important that if you are paying taxes here, then you get a voice. So that's one of my thoughts. Mike helped me do a little bit of research with neighboring communities, and it was very nice to include that information in the packet. And then also in looking at the members' terms expiring in all of these different committees and commissions that we have, something must have happened with the park board over the years that the majority of the members' terms expire in April. So now would be sort of a less painful or a less disruptive time to do it, because I think everyone but Mark Miller's term is expiring. which I find interesting, which means, so this happens when you have a lot of turnover on a commission, which the park board has had a lot of turnover. People's terms get extended, people's terms get changed. And so now would be a good time to do it. And then also, I have obviously in my memo that anyone who's currently serving on the park board and lives in the village would obviously be encouraged to continue to basically apply, just to start new under the code. And I don't know how long code changes would take. Is this like a month's thing?
Well, Matt would, speaking for Matt would draft an ordinance, and if we're trying to make it effective as of the April 21st organizational meeting, we'd bring it back on no later than April 13th.
Okay.
And then you have 2 readings, and then it'd be effective that Tuesday.
Okay, I wasn't sure how long that whole process
Yeah.
took. So, but I, obviously, I wanted to bring this forward and see what you all think. Thoughts, Amanda? Yeah?
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, so having been on the park board, I like the idea of having it be Village of Oregon people. I understand wanting to be taxpayers. The only position that made me go was the Oregon School District member. Because I feel like Parks Board is unique in that they're the primary entity that deals with sports fields in the village. I mean, Parks includes that. That's not all they do, but it's part of it, and kind of getting a sense of what the school district's view is important. It's a better connection with them. So if they had to live in the village, that would mean it would have to be the seat on the school board that's in the village. That, you know,
Amanda,
the seat.
it's not the school representative. Andy was on it.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
just the
his-
school
historically-
district, doesn't have to be the
Yeah.
board?
Historically,
Sorry,
it's never
interrupt you,
actually
but
been a
it's-
school
it's
board
not-
member.
it's not- Yeah.
Okay, so it's a school district member,
There've been
okay.
employees of the school district been on it in the
Oh,
past.
well,
Or just people that are involved with the school that have knowledge. And I totally
Yeah.
agree. I think that the school should continue to be
yeah, I'd like
involved.
to see them be sort of a dedicated seat, so there's a village, there's a school district, and then we can have at-large members. That'd be my only comment on this.
Okay. Hang on. So I think Corey, then Randy, then Jerry. Corey?
So I
Current
guess.
park board member. Yeah.
Yeah. So I very much agree. You know, I think on a lot of these, you know, I think that the chamber, the JCs, and the school district, while those representatives don't necessarily need to be residents, they're getting appointed by those organizations. So I guess I don't really have a feeling that any of those representatives wouldn't be, you know, acting in the best interest of the village and, you know, the usage of those fields, or just voting on parks and things like that. I very much want to be sensitive to, you know, working with the school district. You know, we have a lot of cooperative things that go on with them, and I want to make sure that, you know, their input is heard on the park board as well. That's one of the big areas where we overlap, I think. And then I guess finally, you know, the current code has 3 citizen members, so I think 3 people are required to be residents within the village. So, you know, to me, this is modernization. I guess I don't really see that there's a problem here that we need to fix. You know, I think everything kind of works as it's written, and I don't really see a current problem that we need to address here.
Randy?
So my question was, Jeannie, if we kind of begin to use this as a template, how many other commissions would be affected? I'm thinking historic, we'd have to kick Arlen off because he lives in the town.
That's a board decision.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
But I mean, how many other commissions or boards would this?
I believe these 2 are maybe, off the top of my head, Randy, the only 2 that allow
Yeah, historic is
non-residents.
the only other one.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
And I should say that many, many years ago, this issue that Jeannie's bringing forward came up.
Okay.
And, because there was a concern, again, this is a long time ago, so it was a concern that you could actually have 4 members that are non-residents
Yeah.
voting on something. And I think nothing happened to it because always the discussion was, well, there's always a village board. I mean, the park board's a recommending body. So this issue is not brand new, but it's been a long time since we've talked about it. Yeah.
Okay.
Same thing with HPC. I mean, generally, their items have to go up to the board. It can, well, actually, it can't always be appealed to the board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jerry, did you still have something?
Yes, I do. And I agree with you 100% that we need to do something different with the park board. And while Corey has many good points, I think that if I'm going to be a resident of Oregon, and especially with as vocal as the residents are that surround a park, and I want to make sure that the people that are making the rules for our parks are also paying taxes here and contributing to the welfare of that park. And I have to laugh at that sheet there. I'm sure that was probably, I've been on this board 18 years, and I was laughing at that when I got on then, first time I saw this, because one of my first assignments was on the park board, and I got that and I laughed at it then, thinking, hey, this probably was done with carbon paper too, you know, for their copies.
It
But-
does say amended 2003 on it.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I don't know.
It,
It's not that old.
I think the first copy I got was on a tablet.
It's the one.
But, no, I agree. I'd like to do something different with that. I'd like it to be all citizen members. I think, yeah, we're gonna need to fine tune some things as we move along with this. And speaking to Randy's point about how it will affect other committees, I think we just step into this one and we sort this one out. And if we decide to make this a template for other committees, we'll do that. But I think every committee that we touch, when we decide to quote-unquote modernize the committee rules, I think they'll be unique to that committee. So those are my thoughts.
Jenna?
I like this proposal. I like the idea of having more citizen involvement in their government, so that automatically stuck out to me as a big positive. And I like the idea as well as we talk about some of these park usage and potentially contentious subjects, that the people who are coming to the meetings are seeing their neighbors making their decisions, so it doesn't necessarily, and not that they don't see that now, but knowing that this is somebody who lives in the village, they're facing the same issues that I'm facing, and can identify that way. I think that really helps as we collaborate with the community to make these decisions, so I think it's a good idea.
Corey?
I guess a couple things that I missed. I do like the idea of having the alternate member just be a voting member. To me, having an alternate member, doesn't make a lot of sense, and I don't think that they show up very much typically anyway, so you might as well have a full voting member. The other idea that I really like is having a younger member, just to provide additional perspective and diversity to the group. Getting someone that's a high schooler, they see something completely different than other generational people on the park board. So I like both of those ideas to modify this.
So, let's see, so this is discussion. Do you want action on this tonight, or?
I didn't want to assume the board was going to do anything with, so.
Sure.
The one thing I was going to ask is if we're going to actually go and change the membership, if we could change the powers and duties, this is really old.
Well, maybe have a whole cleanup of this.
It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
and I really liked the powers and duties, or summary of duties that is from Fitchburg. I thought that was that's really what the park board should be doing. Yeah. So Matt and I, if it's okay, we'll go ahead and take a shot at, and just this was the chapter that Matt and I are going to be meeting next week on anyways, Jeff. So, because we know, it comes up every organizational meeting, we go through there and we know it's just been cobbled together over the years. It needs, every committee needs to be looked at, and the duties and everything they need to be updated, so we're starting to work on it. So if you want, we'll prepare an ordinance for the April 13th meeting, the board can look at it and have the first reading.
Corey, then Amanda?
In those powers and duties, it talks about Outlaw 124 and 134 of the assessor's plat of the village. Do you know what that's in relation to? Because it sure seems that there must be some legal agreement that that has to be in.
That's why I wrote a question mark next to it.
Yeah.
I didn't have no
Apparently, we
idea
don't
for it.
know. Well, we'll look that up when we're researching it.
I think Jeff will find that out.
There's got to be a good story there,
Yeah.
right?
I have no idea.
Huh.
Yeah. If not, Jeff will make up a story.
That's why I put a question mark, because when I was reading, I'm like, I'm not sure what that is.
Amanda, do you have something?
Yeah, so I'm just kind of confused at where we sort of stand on this. Like, you know, I like Jeannie's idea, but I think we should keep a school district member, but, you know, Corey said, well, we should have a student member. We're still kind of all over the place. Have we made any consensus on how to proceed here?
Well, there,
or
I mean, there already
changes, or-
is a student member. It just has, I shouldn't say never. There's no student member right now, right?
So there's seven members,
Mhm.
there's an alternate, and there's 2 student members. And the student member is a voting member, and when the student member is gone, the alternate student member gets to vote. But we've had, this is unusual that we had nobody on the planning commission or park board for a long time. And I get students contacting me, I send them the form, and then, I don't know, maybe I scare them off with the form, but they don't apply. So it's been a while since we had a voting member on there.
So the only thing that would change in my proposal is that there would be one student member. It would continue to be a voting member, but there would be one, and that person needs to live within the village.
Okay.
And, I don't know, I think that if we did a little bit of targeted recruitment in the high school, I think we could.
I talked to Jim, the principal there, yeah, or
Yeah,
contact Jim.
But
I
this,
don't know, I think there's kids that want to get involved.
Mhm.
So that, I
Right.
mean, that part wouldn't be changing, Amanda.
okay, and then like so would that necessarily be the school district representative? Because that's not what I was
No.
talking about.
No.
I still think having someone, a non-student Oregon School District representative is a good way to maintain that relationship with the park board and for their input and to see, I don't know, but I didn't hear feedback from anybody else about what they thought about that, so that's why I'm
I
asking.
guess it was my hope that if we made these changes and we opened up applying for it, that the school district would perhaps do a little bit, work on their end and ask a couple people to apply.
Okay, so it would happen naturally
That's
rather
my
than being
hope.
embedded?
As village president, I'm in the position of seeing who's applying, and for me, if there wasn't someone associated with the school district or had knowledge, I would go back to, I'd probably call up Andy Weiland and say, Andy, you got anybody that wants to apply for this? So what I'm super interested in avoiding any slots. So,
Okay.
I mean, in my opinion, if you want to continue the slots, we just continue it the way it is. I want to modernize this so that it's all citizens. That's the way everybody else does it. And I think when we're in a community of 10,000 people, I'm interested in moving forward on that. Also, the Oregon JCs haven't existed in like
Yeah.
12 years.
Yeah, no,
So I'm interested who their representative is. Anywho, yes, Jenna.
Two things. One, for the student members for both the planning commission and the park board, does this count towards their volunteer hours, or can it? Do we know? Because that might be an incentive.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Something to consider.
It should.
Secondly,
Oh,
Amanda, to your point about the school board member, even if they don't have a slot, that doesn't prevent them from coming and sharing their voice. So we can always encourage that as well.
Yes, Matt.
The only other thing I would mention is that I think with the structure that's being proposed, it would be appointment by the village president, subject to confirmation by the trustees.
Yeah.
So you all would have an opportunity, if you were concerned about the mix, to say, wait a minute, we think we need to do something.
Yeah, I don't have executive powers.
Not yet.
Unlike the federal level, I'm not interested in pursuing executive powers. That's all I'll say. Yes, Corey?
I'm just curious how you would view a representative assigned by the school board, but that was also a citizen. Just so they have a direct input on who that citizen representing kind of their viewpoint would be.
That's weird.
You mean recruiting?
I don't know why we would have someone assigned by the school board to a village committee. That's weird.
I think, you know, the committee is a recommending body to the village board, and I think that, you know, they do have a lot of, you know, cooperation and interest in our park system. You know, they work with, you know, scheduling shelters and things like that. You know, I think, you know, I just want to make sure that we continue to have a very good relationship with the school district.
And that is very much noted, and I agree. Jerry, do you have?
I just wanted to add something. I serve on several county committees, and one of the initiatives that they have and have had for a long time is there is a student, high school student member on each committee. They don't have voting privileges, but they can attend the meetings and be aware of what's going on and ask questions.
Yep, so we can have student members per the code on the park board
Mhm.
as voting members, plural, if the one's absent. Planning commission, HPC, and the library, but not voting members. So the board amended the code like maybe 4 or 5 years ago to allow that. And so,
I mean, I like that because the young folks are the people using our parks possibly the most. So I think that just gives them a little bit of a
Mhm.
sense of authority that
Right.
you do have a say in it. So I'm happy to leave the student member as a voting member.
yeah.
A voting member? Okay.
Yeah.
That's up to you, or up to the board, I should say.
Corey?
I guess I would also welcome any input that we could get from the diversity and inclusion group as far as how we can get more diversity into our committee system.
That is a good suggestion.
So one of, I'm going to blame Matt for this again, but Matt, or I shouldn't say volunteer, he nominated me to sit on this, do you remember the board, or the panel discussion at the mayor and villages conference, whenever that was, I don't know.
Chief Executive's Workshop.
Yeah, that sounds really important, so I was trying to avoid those words. Anywho, and so I sat at a table with a couple other women who were mayors of their villages, and I asked them, how do you prevent the same people from being on the same committees year after year? And Wanda, can't remember her last name, she's the new mayor of Brown Deer. She's just said, when someone's committee term was up, she thanked them very much for their service, and she gave them a little certificate. And then she said, we'll be having someone new serving in your capacity. And so this is also one of my ways to try to do that, is try to get some new blood into serving into some of these committees. And so I think that's a great idea, Corey, is to include that Diversity and Inclusion Council. It could give us some ideas, or to reach out to people that may be interested in serving their community, but don't even know these opportunities exist.
Yep, I agree.
So if the board moves forward with this, I would like to do a full court press on doing some publicity on this. We have so many new people that are moving into Oregon. I'd like to get some of those folks having a say in how their village is run. Maybe that'll come back to haunt me.
I don't think so.
Maybe then the audience will be full of people telling us how awful we're doing, but I don't know. I still think democracy is alive when people are engaged in their community. So that's my soapbox. So do we have a consensus to keep this moving forward based on my proposal to have Matt and Mike work together?
Yeah, and it seems to me maybe the easiest thing to do would be to just authorize us to draft something consistent with the village president's proposal. Obviously, it has to come back, and then at that time, if there's a desire to make any amendments to it, that could be done at that time. Unless you want to direct me specifically to do something differently tonight, but then in a way, you'd be kind of getting ahead of the process a little bit. Might be easier to just have the language in front of you so you can see what it is that you're dealing with, and then if someone wants to make a motion to amend it in some way, you could do it at that time.
Are you interested in moving forward?
Yep.
Yeah?
Yep.
Cory?
This is on the park board meeting for Wednesday night, so I guess whatever input they have, can that get provided to staff as well?
Sure.
You know, looking at the timing, Matt, do you think you could have that prepared for the March 16th meeting? I'll tell you why, because if we wait till the 13th, we will not have them, because then you're gonna want them to submit applications
Yeah.
for the 21st. We won't have them by that time.
Yeah.
We almost have to do the 16th and then,
Getting that initial draft done
Yeah.
and back to you,
Yeah.
it shouldn't be a problem.
okay. Okay.
Do you need a motion to that effect, or not?
I don't think so.
Okay.
We have the direction from the board.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll continue discussing it. It'll be at our next meeting.
Yep.
All right, thank you for being open to discussing that. All right. Then we have a review of the 2019 Library Annual Report. This is item 11B. Jennifer, would you like to give us some highlights of this?
I will just go through this really quickly, and then if you have any questions, you can feel free to ask. This is just a report we're required to file on an annual basis with the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction, highlighting some general library information and statistics, also financial information. So the first page, the page numbers in the top left corner, the first page is just general information, and then highlighting our collection size. The second page highlights some of our statistics, including circulation, program attendance, library visits, things like that. For example, number 11 is program attendance. We had over 528 programs last year with over 17,000 attendees. The second section talks about our governing body. Page 3 talks about our operating revenue. So that's the sources of funding that we have, including the Village of Oregon is the main source. We also do, under 2A, you can see the county appropriation from Dane County as well, which is a significant funding source for us as well. I'm going to move on to page 4, unless there's any questions here. The expenditures are from unaudited village numbers, but you can see our main expenses are salaries and wages and benefits. Our expenditures, this includes all of the funds that we expend, so anything donation funds we expend, friends donations we expend, so it's not just the village funds, but our whole budget plus all our donations and all of our expenses total. For the capital section, I'm going to point out that this form is like really specific to the instructions that they provide. So there's some things that the village might consider to be a capital expenditure that's not reported here because of the definitions that they follow when you fill those out. For example, impact fees, we have some of those that we have held by the village, but they don't want you to report those at all until the year that they're spent. So it's not the same picture that maybe our financial reports would provide. Page 5. Talks about our staffing levels and staffing wages. I'll just mention that the hours worked per week is, and the salary are the total of all the positions in that category. So like, for example, we might have 2 or 3 or 4 part-time people included in a particular category. It's not that we're just paying really generously for those part-time positions. Page 6 is used to track our library usage outside of the Village of Oregon, and those numbers are used to determine the reimbursement and the funding that we get from those counties based on their usage, and then the usage in 2019 results in funding in 2021. Page 7 is just saying we're complying with state statutes in terms of the operation of our library. Page 8 is saying that we're approving of our system services. And page 9 are weird notes that I make to myself, so when I do it the next year, I can remember exactly why I filled out the form the way that I did. Are there any specific questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's a lot of books. a lot of books. Almost 50,000.
It's a lot of usage as well.
Yeah.
Those are impressive numbers. All right, thank you. So now we're on item 11C. This is discussion and possible action regarding Rupert Milky Task Order 2020-02, the first addition to the Badfish Drainage District. We have a recommended motion to approve this task order in the amount of $15,766 for preparation of specifications for the first addition to the Badfish Drainage District. Someone like to make this motion to get it on the table? Jerry?
I'll make that
Second.
motion.
Second by Donovan. Jeff?
Okay. Well, this was, as you know, we've already approved a task order to design the dredging and everything for this year in the drainage district. What we found out in the last couple of weeks is that, in effect, I mean, as we've said before, this drainage district is very old. The last document of any kind prior to our involvement last year was 1918. So just 101 years earlier. And as such, the drainage district has not maintained good records of what exists out there in the drainage district. And so it's not been what they term is specified. It's not, so the alignment, the profile, and everything like that. So when we went to submit to the state drainage engineer this year for the dredging project, the drainage engineer came back and said, well, we have no idea what to even approve because there's no current specifications or plans for the drainage district. So it kind of set us back a little bit. It set us back in time and everything, but this is the route we're taking. They've been good to work with. So what we have to do is ask Rupert Milky to basically prepare those drawings, which have not been done in over 100 years. And so they'll prepare that. We're going to submit these specifications along with the plans for the dredging portion. We call it the learner lateral dredging at the same time so that we won't run those consecutively, but parallel paths, and hopefully get those approved. We anticipate it could be anywhere from 60 to 90 days after it's submitted.
All right, questions? Corey?
So does this mean construction next winter?
We're still hoping for construction summer or fall, but we were really hoping we could have done what we did last year, and we were hoping to be able to do the construction February and March, and we just hit that snag.
David?
Does the drainage board have any emergency powers to waive some of this stuff so we can get in there now?
Great question. It kind of depends on who you talk to. The attorney for the drainage district indicates that there are emergency procedures in place. What we are trying to evaluate now is what constitutes an emergency.
If I might, one follow-up. Tell them to drive by Netherwood today. The water on the south side of Netherwood it's a swamp out there.
Oh, yeah, it's out on the south side of Netherwood, yeah,
It's terrible, and that, to me, is an emergency. We've got to drain that water, because we
Right.
know we're going to get more from the spring rains. And
Correct.
it's just going to make it worse.
Correct, yeah, and nothing is getting better right now.
Right.
And I was in a meeting today for 2 hours in Fitchburg where we discussed this and the problems upstream and the water coming to us, and I keep coming back and saying, really, we need to kind of work our way upstream, which is starting at the learner lateral there.
Yeah, Jerry? and then-
Yes, how will this be paid for, Jeff?
The village is borrowing, I think it was $400,000 in the planned CIP this year, and it's coming out of those funds, which is part of the stormwater improvements that we had planned for this year.
Very good. And because I've been asked, I'm going to ask this question even though I know the answer, because to a lot of people it seems obvious we should just be able to stuff a culvert underneath Netherwood and
Correct.
move the water across the road, underneath the road. And why don't you go ahead and
Sure.
tell everybody
Well,
what you
yeah,
told
for
me?
one thing, we don't have enough elevation from one side of the road to the next. It's basically flat, so, and almost at road level. That's why you can see the water right there. So, we really need, either we put what we call an inverted siphon in, which is kind of what our original plan was, or we go with If we're able to construct this ditch all the way up there, it gives us several feet more that we don't have now, that we'd be able to daylight a gravity culvert out of. And that's a huge advantage, as if anyone's ever dealt with inverted siphons, they're very, very difficult to maintain, especially in the winter and freezing, and it can be kind of problematic.
So it looks like we'll be using that $80,000 pump again.
The pump is ready to go.
Yep.
You know, and like I've said this publicly a couple times, is yes, Netherwood will be closed again. I mean, I'm just saying, you know, realistically, nothing's changed from last year to this year, and we still have the water coming
Okay.
towards us. So we'll continue to work towards a long-term solution, but it will take time.
Just have to ask everybody for their patience once again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Randy?
So Jeff, they don't have any drawings of what we want to do, but, so we're going to pay for some drawings.
Correct.
Do they have to approve the drawings then?
Yes, yeah, that's what's gonna be running parallel to our plans as
But
well.
we're not anticipating any, hopefully no problems.
No,
Okay.
no. This is really just, this is all part of the fact that you're trying to kind of
Yeah.
restart something that hasn't started, that hasn't run in 100 years.
Okay.
And,
Okay.
All right, any other questions? We have a motion and a second to approve this task order. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
thank you.
Jeannie, if I might, Jeff, please follow up with that emergency powers and
I am.
let me know what they say.
I am.
I-
Typically, my experience with emergency powers has been things where you start having property damage, and, you know, a loss, or if it's a loss, or life, health, and safety matter. You could argue that the flooding of the road, I think, is our strongest point there, and that's
Well,
what.
and that, and the spring, if that becomes a breeding ground for mosquitoes and other disease vectors, I would consider that a health issue.
Could be, yeah. I mean, we've got mosquito, yeah, it's hard, because there's water everywhere,
Yep,
so.
I know, but
mosquitoes, yeah.
it's certainly a concentration.
Yeah, I'll be evaluating that.
Thank
with,
you.
All right, item 11D, we have a discussion and possible action regarding 451 Lexington Street lateral. This is infiltration and inflow source removal. We have a recommended motion to approve a $4,000 reimbursement to Lucia Rowley for the repair of sewer and water laterals and removal of a large II source at the property located at 451 Lexington Drive. So I'm gonna guess that we probably want some more information about this before we even make a motion to approve. So Jeff, I mean, we have a memo.
Yes.
You want to give us any highlights from this?
Yeah, so as you know, my staff has been, quite honestly, looking down manholes. We've had our engineers looking down manholes, taking flow measurements and that type of thing. And one of the things that kind of cropped up last year when one of my staff was looking down a manhole on Lexington Drive was that noticed that there was only one connection to this manhole, and there was a lot of water coming in. And so we evaluated that further with we call it a push camera, that we can push up that lateral, and basically found a very large infiltration source. And it was hard to tell what it was, other than the fact it was just a lot of water boiling around. And we estimated it was 20 to 40 gallons a minute coming into this line. And that's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and especially with the high groundwater table we have this year, it's a lot of water. And I think I estimated it was somewhere between 10 to 20 million gallons or more. You know, if it's 20 to 40 gallons per minute, that's 10 to 20 million gallons annually into our water system, into our sewer system that we pump, that we treat, that we, you know, and so those cause an expense. And that's why we're just approved that contract to remove a lot of the I&I sources. This is a little different in the fact that it's on a sewer lateral, which technically is a private sewer lateral onto a property. However, in looking at it, this person kind of questioned, well, why wasn't it inspected properly? There were some questions with that. We met with them and said, you know, you need to get this repaired. This is a lot of water coming in. She had at the time had asked, well, would the village, you know, help me out with it? And I said, I can't promise anything. I said, but, you know, if the quite honestly, if we could remove that large of a water source from our system and do it very economically, that's a win-win for the village, and it's, in my opinion, a good use of public funds and public trust doctrine for that. So you can see that the cost to her was well over, I think, $8,100, and that's not even counting the landscape repair that she's gonna have to do this year. My recommendation was that we would reimburse her $4,000 towards the repair costs of that. And that's quite a bit cheaper than what we would pay to remove that large of a INI source in any other portion of the system. It does raise a question, and we've talked with the legal counsel about that, about doing work on private property. It's not unprecedented, that's something that we've done, but it does kind of raise a question. I think as we go into this INI, as we start to attack the INI sources throughout the village, we're probably gonna find other similar type situations. And I look at it kind of how we've done with the sewer reimbursement policy, where, we've kind of looked at it and said, we're not responsible. A lot of times the insurance company is saying we're not responsible to pay this, but the village board has stepped up and said, we're going to provide some support back on certain situations that make sense, and they've done that. So we might have to look at a policy going forward that would be able to help in these kind of situations.
Questions, Jerry?
Yes, Jeff, you mentioned that we're going to eliminate a large INI or an infiltration.
Yep,
It's been done.
yes.
Any idea in how many gallons per year was it?
It could be over 20 million gallons.
20 million gallons a year, and that would normally go down to the sewer plant and have to be treated.
Correct.
And we'd have the wear and tear on our sewer plant. Do you have a cost, what it costs to treat a gallon?
I
of-
did not, I requested that from our engineer, and I didn't, it is a per gallon cost, but even at a very, very small, like pennies on the gallon, it adds up easily to a couple $1,000s a year.
So it's a very quick payback.
Corey's got a,
Based on our plus volume charge, so gallons above the 5,000
Yeah.
gallons per month, if they paid that plus volume charge, it's like $45,000 to $90,000 per year.
Per year, so that's a pretty quick
that's the-
payback.
Yeah, that's a volume charge,
That's
correct.
that's a very quick payback.
Correct.
Yeah,
correct. And,
so-
in situations like this where, quite honestly, what was installed should not have been installed, and that's hard, it's hard for any inspector, I don't know, what was going on at that time, but it's hard for any inspector to witness everything all the time. But there were some very questionable things that we saw. In short, it was a T or a Y fitting that never should have been put in place. You have the picture here of I believe, of the finished product this last time, or this go-around. It's a little difficult to see, I'm gonna zoom out on it here, but basically this was a Y fitting, so there was used to be another end that went out here, and it was totally exposed. The cap had totally come off and was just literally wide open. We actually helped support this because they were having difficulty. We took our Vector truck out there, our big sewer sucker truck, and helped dewater the system and made it a safer environment for them to work out there, because it was literally in a water bath almost of soil and water and everything. So this is the finished product. It was done well, this was done right, and so this shows the fitting. So this is what's going to the fourplex, and then this is what's going out into our system.
What's the giant thing in between those two green pieces?
This one?
No, you scroll up.
The white,
Yeah, what is that?
Yeah, what is that?
What's
this thing?
that? Yeah.
That's actually that's the water shut-off. So they actually had, to make compound things worse, is they had the water, there are 4 water isolation valves that go to the fourplex here that were installed directly over the top of all the sewer fittings. And in the process of them going through all this, we noticed that the fittings were not the appropriate fittings that should have been used for the water distribution. They all started leaking when they were being exposed. And so she was forced to have to replace all of that as well.
How far under the surface is this repair? Is it
About 7.5 feet.
7.5 feet, so it won't freeze then?
No.
In most years, okay.
No.
David?
I'm a little hesitant to approve this tonight, not because I don't think she deserves it or we shouldn't do something. I would just like to have the policy in place first that guides us on how we're going to do this in the future. I would consider making an amendment that we grant $2,000 tonight with the option that she can come back for the additional $2,000 once we get that policy in place. And that way we make sure that we do and treat everyone equitably as we go forward. I think it's a good idea. It's saving us money in the long run. But I want to make sure we have that policy in place so that we have something to react to or guide us as we go into the future. And I don't want to shut her out because I think she deserves it. But I just don't know what the value should be at this point. So maybe splitting the difference from my perspective would be a way to do that and still give her the option to come back if the policy warrants a larger subsidy.
All right, so Jenna, then I have to go through here.
I personally would be against that because I don't feel that we should be making her jump through additional hoops just because we don't have a policy. It'd be one thing if we had a policy but we needed to change it in order to work with the situation or something of that nature, but since we don't have a policy, I say we go forward with this and then look at addressing the policy situation separately.
Corey, then Amanda?
I think we do have a policy on this. Our municipal code says that this is a building sewer that's owned by the property owner. And our municipal code says that there's prohibited discharges. Those prohibited discharges include any sanitary sewer or the utilities, anything that causes a sanitary sewer or the utilities wastewater facilities to be overloaded, or anything in the opinion of the village that causes excess utility collection and treatment costs, or disproportionate share of the use of the utilities facilities. So to me, I love getting this disconnected from our system, but I personally do not feel that this is the village's obligation to do a repair on a private facility. To me, where does that stop? Are you gonna go into somebody's home and fix their toilet? Are you going to ensure that their structure was adequately built and nailed together? To me, the village is not an insurance policy for everyone. Our building code specifically says that the chapter shall not be construed as assuming liability on the part of the villages for damages due to anyone injured by the property destroyed by any defect in the building equipment, plumbing, wiring, HVAC work, or equipment. Just because, there was an inspector, if there was a cap on there, how do they see if that cap is glued or not? It's just, we can't catch everything and we can't ensure everything was done perfectly. One other thing that I saw in the building code is, and in the statutes, the primary duty of a building inspector is to do plan review. It's not to catch every single thing done in construction. The way that things get handled in the building code is to have a licensed plumber required for doing all plumbing work. So my question is, has anyone pulled up the plumbing permit for this facility to, see why it was installed that way? And I guess a question for Jeff is, was what you saw a violation of plumbing code? It may be a horrible design or a horrible idea, but if it wasn't a violation of plumbing code, our building inspector can't tell them they can't do anything that isn't prohibited by the building code.
I can't comment on whether it was a permitted plumbing code issue. It was, in my personal opinion, I honestly think they just didn't have the right fittings and they cobbled it together. That's my, from what, looking at it, because there was no reason to have a Y fitting at that point. And they probably just didn't have the 45-degree fitting or didn't want to go to First Supply and pick it up. That's, but I don't know if that's a code issue or not. I think, I wrestled with the same things. I'm very protective over private property owners doing their repairs and everything like that. And if this were just a simple leak or something like that, that'd be in my opinion, a completely different matter, a leaky toilet or something like that. And we've been on record on other things, even with sewer backups and that type of stuff, and contractors that have screwed up. We've been very tough on some of those individuals, and denied them kind of requests like this. You know, my view of this was that if we were going through the system just on our public system, and we could eliminate, you know, 20 to 40 gallons a minute by spending $4,000, it would be, in my opinion, you know, very money well spent. But I know I wrestle with that too. I wrestle with the same things Corey is talking about.
Amanda?
So a couple things. I understand Corey's point and David's point. When we had the laterals on our house on Main Street redone, that was totally on us. We had lead laterals and we had to do it, and it was about $3,500 dollars. And if it had been a simple replacement, that's about what it'd have cost her. But there were some compounding issues here, and because it wasn't a leak of water to someone where they had a high bill, because we've had those come before us too, and we've denied funds because it doesn't hurt, you know, it's on them, it's their lateral, it's their, you know, but this is costing the village money, and I don't think we should pay for all of it, but I also don't see jumping through extra hoops. I think if she had just had to replace her lateral, it would have cost, let's say it would have cost her $4,000 whatever dollars. I think it's fair that we pay the rest of that. So I like Jeff's compromise because it's paying for half the cost, but she is still footing the bill for the lateral part. We are taking some financial responsibility because the work was, and there were complications, and it's costing us money to have it not fixed. So I think in this case, and we have set a precedent too, that was the other point I want to make. You said we don't have a policy. No, we don't have a specific policy, but in the past when we've had similar issues, we've paid about half the costs. I feel like this compromise is a fair one for that reason. I think we are following an unwritten policy that we have had.
Does that sound like do you want to make a motion there, Amanda?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to approve a $4,000 reimbursement to Lucia Rowley for repair of the sewer and water laterals and removal of a large I&I source at the property located at 451 Lexington Drive.
And I'm going to second that because I think Jeff made a very good judgment call by fixing this. Because, as she said, it was costing the village taxpayers money to have this, all that a million gallons?
10 to 20 million gallons.
10 to 20 million
Yeah.
gallons going through the sewer plant. So by shutting that off, we saved, again, wear and tear on the sewer plant. So I'm fully behind this repair and this reimbursement.
Okay. So
And it won't cause a budget shortfall in your budget, will it, Jeff?
No, we have funds that we've already set aside for the I&I, you know, removal,
Mhm.
and that's part of that, it comes under that contract, what we're spending under that contract as well.
Very good.
Okay, Corey?
I feel horrible that any property owner has to, invest in making repairs on something like this. However, this is a privately owned facility. And as much as, this is, $4,000 to one owner, this is coming from our taxpayers' dollars. And I don't think it's fair to take from someone else's taxes to pay for a private improvement. Those taxpayers have already been paying tens of thousands of dollars to treat the water that's gotten to our treatment plant. These types of repairs, can easily be handled, and can be required to be made by the person that owns those facilities. So I'm not going to vote to recommend paying for the private improvements.
Okay, thank you. David?
Do we know, is this is a 4-unit complex?
Correct.
Are they condos or are they rentals?
they're rentals. She owns the fourplex.
So she has options available to her to recover these costs through her renters, especially in a tight housing market that we have right now. I would agree with Corey. I can't see my way clear to vote to support this at this point. It's truly going to take money from one person or group of people to help out a private individual who has recourse other than coming to us for a subsidy, which this is. It's plain and simple. In addition to that, to get to a point Jerry made, yeah, the groundwater's up this year, but 5 years ago it was down. And there wasn't as much water flowing through that probably as there is today. So there's going to be ebbs and flows in this whole thing. And will that benefit to the village always be the same? I don't believe it will. And so it's going to cost us more money. Yeah, we'll recover it. The payback's quick, but we got to put it in the perspective of the ebbs and flows of things that occur in nature. So again, I just don't see my way clear to support this.
So, Corey, I think we're just gonna vote.
I just had one separate thing from the vote. Can we see what plumber did this work, so we can keep an eye on that plumber in the future?
I looked under the permit, because I did the research when we started this whole process, and the file's pretty sparse. I've never recognized the name of this plumber.
Okay.
It was from like Portage or something like
I
that.
just want to make sure that we
Yeah.
don't have them continually doing the same thing over and over and
No.
over again.
That's fair. All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve the $4,000 reimbursement. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
We have, passes 5-2. All right, thank you everyone for your thoughtful
Thank you.
discussion. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. And I understand and respect all the opinions on it.
All right, item 11E, we have discussion on possible action regarding Rupert Milkie Lincoln Road Task Order 2020-01. We have a recommended motion to approve this task order in the amount of $38,150 for engineering services for Lincoln Road and water main connection. So does someone feel comfortable making this motion before we discuss it? Get it on the table?
Move.
All right, so we have a motion by Randy, I think it was a second by Jerry. Highlights for
Okay.
this, Jeff?
Yeah, so you'd previously approved when we went out for some proposals, and we approved Rupert Milkie for the roadway reconstruction fee of $15,750. So you'd already approved that, and they just needed to bring the task order forward, and that's what partially this is. In the process of that, I had a meeting with Gary, and Gary had a fantastic idea, and he said, if we thought about, and I don't know why I hadn't thought of this, I feel a little sheepish on it, but I will give credit where credit is due. Gary had said, well, we thought about making this connection on Lincoln Road of our water main. And a lot of people don't realize that our tall water tower, the big white tall water tower off of Lincoln Road, is served from only one location, and that's up Bergamot Boulevard. And that was part of when that development went in, and so we don't have a looped connection off of that tower. And we're really only missing about, I think it's 1,100 feet. I'm trying to remember if this, 1,600 feet of water main, because now with the Bergamot 4D, I think it was, right near where Randy lives there, they extended the water main out to Bryn Hill and all the way up Lincoln Road to that point. So it's gotten the closest it's ever going to be. And so I talked to Mike, and we kind of both agreed that this is a perfect time before we go tearing up the road to connect that with the 12-inch water main. What this will bring, we think, is just greatly improved reliability, redundancy, and supply from the high pressure zone. If we say had a pressure main break on Lincoln Road servicing Bergamot, we would lose control of that tower. And we had that for a while. Remember the very first month I was here, we had to take the tower down for almost a month and a half. And then you're relying just on the pumps, and you don't have that storage volume up in the air for fire flows and that type of thing. So so what we've done is we've actually increased the borrowing for this year for the water, so we could plan for that capital improvement. But the engineering and the oversight of construction adds another $22,400 for engineering. And that total is $38,150 for Rupert Milkie.
Yes, Corey?
Were we doing a mill and overlay or a full
That's a pulverize,
Okay.
yeah.
Is the water main installed under the road then, completely?
No, it'll be probably in the, off to the side. The route we'll have to determine, but I think it'll be on the north side of the road. It's probably the less obtrusive area right now, but there's also power lines there too.
David?
I'm sorry, but I'm not sure I'm following the exact area that we're talking about.
Sure.
Could you help me
Absolutely,
a
yes.
little bit more?
So let's.
Maybe I should just clarify. Will this basically form a loop between Bergamot and Bryn Hill? And that basically allows us for duplication in the system or redundancy?
Correct. So right here, this is Bergamot Boulevard right here. And this is the water tower right here. And right now, if I show the water system, you'll see that the water system, this is this orange line, connects down here and serves everything here. But this is all this area,
Okay.
including everything on the south side over where I live, and everything else is all served by the high pressure zone. And we're just talking about making this connection right here.
Okay.
And that gives us that redundancy.
Okay. To follow up on that then, to Corey's question, is the main going to be on the south side of the road?
We don't know that yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, from a former life, I thought there used to be state code that allowed people that lived along water mains to interconnect if the water main right-of-way impacted them. Is that, maybe I got that wrong, but is that,
There's some language in there that actually you can, it would prevent them from probably drilling a new well
Right.
and forcing them to connect. You know, it's kind of how we've done with some of the sewer system as well. It was just this last year.
and that would be done without annexation?
That could be done, well,
If a well fails, the DNR can order that.
yeah. It's tricky when you're talking about bringing people that aren't in the village into the water system. I mean, that has pretty serious ramifications on other projects, like a school.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve the task order. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
You done spending money now, Jeff?
I hope so.
Okay.
At
Just
this
for
meeting.
tonight.
For tonight.
Tonight. All right, item F, we have a FYI, the Senior Center Grant for Staff Education. We have a memo from Rachel in our packets. Looks like we're going to have 5 of the staff attend behavioral health and aging certificates at no cost. So that's exciting.
Mike. It is, the one thing that I neglected to put in that memo was that this is all online. So the staff will be doing this during time that they are already at work.
Excellent.
Yeah, it was a really nice opportunity. I was proud of the staff that 5 of them felt like this would be a good investment of their time and energy, so.
Good. All right, thank you for sharing that information with us. Item G, for the board's information, at the March 30th Public Works and Utility Committee meeting, village staff will present some initial background information to begin the discussion for establishing sustainable practices for village operations and buildings. Looking forward to that.
Yep.
Yes, Jerry?
Do you know what else is going to be on that agenda, Mike, at this time? I know it's early.
I have a list and
I couldn't tell. Well, actually, we may have the amendment to the street tree ordinance potentially on there.
Okay,
But I'm trying to think of anything else, Jerry. Off the top of my head, I can't think of it.
that's fine, thank you.
something else, I can't remember what it was.
Likely be a full agenda for you to chair there, Jerry.
Yeah, as long as it's not a special. The special meetings are longer than the
Those are
regular.
killers, aren't they? I know.
And the non-special meetings.
I like committee meetings because I just get to come and sit here and
Mhm.
yeah, I like those. All right, so item H, we have marker calendars for April 22nd with the Southern Dane County Community Resource Forum. And so we have a flyer in our packets for this. So this is something that we've been working on for a while. Gosh, I went to the first meeting on this like 6 or 8 months ago. So it's actually happening. It's hosted by the Village, by the Chamber of Commerce, by the League of Wisconsin Municipalities, and most important, by WIDA. And the goal is to have it be a regional resource for folks who want to figure out how to build some different housing and economic development. So yay. So Elise is here now. So now Elise is in charge of this. Hey, thanks.
You're welcome.
I've been having to go to less meetings now. So you want people probably to RSVP to this? Yes, your information is on the flyer.
Yep. We already
Register by
have,
April
I
17th.
think, 15 RSVPs. that
Really?
Just sent out this to kind of a blast about a week ago, but a good mix of municipalities, staff, some elected officials, a couple developers, and included, I think some folks from Vanderwall will come, but I think it'll be a good mix of information and breakfast and lunch provided, so hopefully that'll help with the.
Yeah. Yeah, so things like this come about when, I think Jenna and I went to some different conferences and found out that these were happening throughout the state, and we're like, hey, where is Southern Wisconsin in this? And there wasn't one, so look, now we have one. This is exciting. I'm excited that Oregon is taking the lead on this for Southern Dane County. Yes, Amanda.
So I guess what I'm asking is, are village board members encouraged to attend this, or is this for people from other municipalities, or how?
Yes, all the above, and WIDA is gonna be providing the refreshments, so, that's really nice of them to be able to do that, but there's just depending on how many people we have RSVP will be in, either this room or the community room, but, anybody that's interested in attending, I think it's good to know. We'll also have Moving Out there. They're not typically involved in these other resource forums, but kind of, they can speak from a developer and property management perspective about working with the state and some things that have worked really well in other communities too. But I think anybody that's interested and able to attend should do so if they are
Put me
available.
down.
All right,
Put me down.
got it.
Okay,
All right.
good.
So excited to see that is happening. Thank you, Elise, for coordinating that. We appreciate that. All right, item I, we have follow-up to question regarding the League of American Bicyclists Bicycle-Friendly Community Program application. The village should receive notification regarding its application by May.
Just one follow-up to that too. We shared it on the village Facebook page and chamber, a couple other places, but as a follow-up to the application, the bicyclist league, they sent us a survey link. So if you can, I think we posted it on Valentine's Day or somewhere around about there. We've got about, I think, till the middle of May or middle of March that survey is open. So you can share that. Please take it. It only takes 4 or 5 minutes. But just any ideas you have about bicycling in Oregon and ways to make it better.
Yeah, Jerry?
Lise, if we become a bicycle-friendly city, what does that involve?
Well, we get some plaques and signs we get to hang up on our entrances, which is always fun. But I believe we'll also be eligible for different programs and grants that we can use towards bicycle infrastructure improvements or education. And actually, as part of this whole application, sharing the survey, we've gotten a lot of interest from different community groups. One group, I'm forgetting the name of, maybe Zoom or something like that. They used to be affiliated with the Zone Fitness Center, but they are kind of a road cycling community group, and they've actually offered to provide helmets to children and adults, working with the police department and working with the school district, and just kind of trying to get more people out there. They're also willing to help with education, bike riding. They may have been involved in the past, but I think it's good to just get the word out there that we're interested in improving bicycling in the community, and there's a lot of people that are interested in helping with that.
Very good. Did you start this initiative? Or?
Actually, Amy Miller,
Okay.
school district, she kind of, I guess, been asking about it for a while and then finally applied. So
Very good.
I'm still young and fresh and have optimism and energy, so take advantage while you can.
I knew you weren't describing me.
Yes, Amanda.
Just a quick question, this, the bicycle-friendly designation, does that sort of also by default include being pedestrian-friendly?
It's actually, that's a separate.
It is a separate thing, okay.
There's probably a different, like certification, but I haven't looked into that yet. But all these questions were just pertaining to bicycles and the application.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Elise. Item J, this is FYI only. Lakestone Properties, which was the Jefferson Crossing developer, has secured an option to purchase the property at 917 Janesville Street and plans on developing affordable workforce housing on the property. And this property is in tax incremental district number 4. So we have an email in our packet with a map on this. Sounds like village staff is going to be asking Vanderwall and Associates to create some conceptual layouts. The developer is going to be paying for that. Yay. Yes, questions, Jerry?
I know this is FYI, but I do have a comment on this agenda item. I'm going to make my pitch for more affordable senior housing again. I know Rolling Meadows has got a waiting list of over 175 people, families, whatever, waiting to get into Rolling Meadows, and the demand is overwhelming. Our population is aging, which is good because it means we're healthy and we're aging. But it's bad because I know there are people that want to live in Oregon but can't afford it because Oregon is becoming less affordable, I'll put it. I don't know how else to be delicate with that, but it used to be a middle-class community, but it's gradually not becoming one, you know. So again, to staff or whoever's working on this, when you meet with the developers, please put in that pitch to make a portion of it senior.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes, Amanda?
And can we call it attainable housing? Just,
Well, that was their term, and I'm honestly, no
it's
offense,
their
I don't think
thing.
people understand what that is. People understand what affordable workforce housing, and that's the term that's out in
Use it,
the
no one
market.
knows what it means.
There's a lot of definitions
Yeah.
and words that get thrown out there. They
Yeah.
start to not mean anything after
Yeah.
a while. But as they're doing some, analyses to see different WIDA applications and other funding sources. So we'll get more information about what the different income brackets and possibly age brackets might be that they're looking to kind of develop this site.
Yeah, Randy.
Have they done this workforce before, housing, or is this the first time?
They'll coordinate with a company that does it,
They have not done it in the
yeah.
past.
Okay.
But sounds like they're smart enough to know that it takes a
Yep.
lot of work, so they're
Correct.
partnering with another company.
They'll
That's
coordinate
good
that
to
with
hear.
somebody that's done it.
There's so much paperwork.
Yeah.
So have they closed on this lot?
They have an option on it.
They have an option on it. Yeah, it's too bad they couldn't get those other two properties to the south there.
We'll see.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. We have report of committees. We have none. We have some minutes not requiring action. We have from the library board minutes. Let's see, we have no unfinished business. Under new business, we have approval of pending new operator licenses. These have been recommended approval by the police department. We have Rochelle C. Coons from Aces Main Tap. Someone like to make the motion to approve that, please?
So moved.
second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve this new operator license. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And we have no other ones under there. We have some future agenda items, and so now, item 17, the village board may adjourn into closed session during the meeting pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 1985, parent 1E, to discuss the possible acquisition of property for development purchases, and the board will adjourn from closed session. So I need a motion to go into closed session, please.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Horton,
Yes.
Pollock,
Yes.
Jacobson.
Yes.
Lish,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Carpenter,
Yes.
Donovan.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. We will go into closed session. We will stay in here. Yeah.